trans. Requested that everyone sit down, get prepared for events that are coming, and he closed with the remark, "Good luck to all of you."
250,000 miles away, spacesuited Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are racing towards the lunar horizon at a speed of about 1 mile a second. They're getting ready to re-establish contact with Mission Control and preparing Eagle systems for the final descent. They sound relaxed, remarking on the eerie whistling noise they can hear in their headsets.
You hear it too, huh? It's like wind whipping around the trees.
Like wind whipping through the trees, says Armstrong. But it's now time for the crew to perform a critical task, to prime the spacecraft for the final 13 minutes to the moon.
Okay, we ready to go to B-63?
Aldrin instructs Eagle's guidance computer to start running program P63, which will control the precise moment at which the descent engine must ignite and how long it will burn for. MIT's Don Iles wrote the lines of code for that essential program.
The landing program, P63, had been selected. It actually computed the exact ignition time and the attitude the spacecraft needed to be in at ignition. Then there would have been a maneuver to the burn attitude, a program which Peter Adler and I had written called Burn Baby. That was in operation at that time. And in fact, on the DISCI, which is the display and keyboard unit, the astronauts would have seen a dwindling number of seconds counting down to the ignition.
To many, these elegant programs are like works of art in their own right. And that's certainly the case for space scientist and Apollo historian Paul Fiel.
Program 63 basically calculates exactly when to start the engine based on all the information that's been given to it. Where am I? How fast am I going? Once I know that, and I know my final target, this position of the landing site, it uses this very clever algorithm that the computer can handle every 2 seconds to figure out when to fire the engine, and then when it's firing the engine, how much of that trajectory have I eaten into, and where do I need to point my engine to keep going along this nice trajectory.
Back in Mission Control, they're seconds away from AOS, acquisition of signal, the moment when Collins' command module and Armstrong and Aldrin's LEM are due to reappear over the lunar horizon. Guidance officer Steve Bales, who at the time was just 26 years old, soon had to face one of the toughest decisions of his life. But here, 50 years on, he remembers the brief calm before the storm.
We have acquisition of signal.
Actually,
Here the command module first goes there at a higher altitude. They report things seem to be going well.
Columbia, Houston, over.
Capcom Charlie Chief called out to Mike Collins.
Houston, Columbia, region land clear on me. Roger, bye, Mike. How did it go, over? Listen, Dave, everything's going just swimmingly. Beautiful. Great. We're standing by for Eagle. Okay, he's coming along. AOS landing. Copy, yeah. Roger, AOS landing.
we get acquisition of the spacecraft. From the time that spacecraft cracks the hill until the time we're on the surface is about a half hour long. It's about 18 minutes to look at the spacecraft and the telemetry, and then it's about 12 minutes from there to the surface of the moon, from the time that we start the powered descent. And immediately, as soon as we acquire telemetry, we're in trouble.
Houston Eagle, how do you read? Bye-bye, Eagle. We're standing by for you for the report, over.
Because spacecraft communications are absolutely lousy. We can't communicate to them. They can't communicate to us.
We've lost data. Flight probably going thermal.
Hear the most noise, and data comes in and out and in and out, and it is noisy as all get out. And Gene's got to decide we've got enough data to keep going on, because his job, one of his jobs, is to decide, are we in a position to monitor this vehicle and figure out what to do.
The problem here is with Eagle's most critical communication system, the high-gain antenna, a steerable aerial that can be pointed towards the Earth. Without this radio link, Mission Control can't speak to Armstrong and Aldrin or receive data from the lunar module system. And without that telemetry, they can't land on the moon. All of this puts Gene Kranz under enormous pressure.
NASA management had to have some kind of a ground rule on how much communications and telemetry we must have in order to allow the mission to continue. And Kraft and I had lobbied for a very open loop. The flight director will make this decision, where a lot of people wanted very precise. We have to have it, you know, at the time of these events. And what they were concerned about, sort of like a crash report on an airplane. If we crashed, we wanted to know why we crashed. Kraft and I won, and we had this very loose mission rule. And this is the only one that really bothers me, because it's pure judgment call. This is our unique power of the flight director. And immediately his mission rule has come into mind, because it's decision time, go time.
Flight Delta. We've lost data for some reason. He may be walking up on the sideline.
Desperate for a solution to their communication problems, the team in Mission Control decide to try and turn Eagle to a new attitude, changing its orientation, giving the antenna a better line of sight to the Earth in a bid to improve the signal. Here, Charlie Duke and Gene Kranz urgently troubleshoot the problem with telecommunications officer Don Patty.
A slight suggestion, would a little yellow help if or steerable?
What do you think, Don?
Sure, how much? Which direction?
Stand by.
So I delay the go with the team for roughly about 40 seconds. And to get data back briefly, and I make the decision to press on it. We're going to go on this one here. So I have my propellers, okay, make their go-no-goes on the last valid data set that they had. I know it's stale, but the fact is that it's not time to wave off.
Okay, all flight controllers, go for powered descent. Retro, go. Fido, go. Guide, go. Control, go. Telcom, go. GNC, go. Econ, go. Circuit, go. Capcom, or go for powered descent.
In Eagle's cabin, Armstrong and Aldrin watch their displays counting towards zero, marking the time when they must fire their engines.
What else is left to do here? It's an on-defense.
Eagle is flying on its side with its legs and engine facing the direction of travel. When the engine comes on and throttles up to maximum power, the mighty thrust is like slamming on the brakes. As Eagle loses speed, it will drop rapidly from 50,000 feet towards the surface. After a minute of broken communications, the signal finally becomes clear and data starts to flow to Mission Control once again. But for Guidance Officer Steve Wales, the problems are only just starting.
I'm looking at my displays, and I am in big trouble, because that vehicle is going toward the moon 20 feet per second faster than it should be. And I said, oh my gosh, if it grows by another 15 feet per second, I got to abort.
Here's Steve conveying the message to Gene Kranz. He doesn't use the word abort, but he knows his boss will understand the gravity of what he's saying.
Flight guide. Okay. The turn on, we have 20 foot per second residual. That is probably due to down track air.
I'll leave it smooth.
Right. About 20 foot residual due to down track air. I think, and it was in radio.
Steve Bell says, flight, we're halfway to our abort limits. I don't know what's caused it, but I'm going to keep watching it. So all of a sudden, boom, we sure got my attention, and not when you say you're halfway to your abort limits.
The lunar module appears to be traveling 20 feet per second faster than expected. If this increases, it suggests that something is seriously wrong, possibly with Eagle's computer. And if it reaches 35 feet per second, they'll have to abort the mission, and Armstrong and Aldrin will be heading back for a risky rendezvous with Mike Collins 60 miles up. So Steve watches the figure on his console like a hawk, hoping that it won't change.
It does not grow.